extent, no technology should be protected from having to answer to other people, and this just because it keeps us honest. The problem with regulating AI in particular, and those kind of technologies that are very fast-moving, very complex, is that you can almost guarantee that the regulation will be in some manner failing the cause that it's trying to serve. The folks who are building this technology day in and day out know a lot more than the regulators, and whatever the regulators are working with is also likely to be influenced on either side, pro-regulation and anti-regulation, by interests that kind of bias the problem. So that's not to say that there should not be regulation, but it does mean that the individual responsibility of both citizens and, of course, organizations is greater than on technologies where we know that regulation is going to be very high. So taking the example, for instance, of in health and and medication and vaccination, we know that these are heavily regulated areas, and I, the citizen, consumer, don't have to ask myself too many questions, both in terms of my doctor has been regulated by certain degrees, and the stuff that they're able to prescribe to me in countries where I trust the governments has also been highly, highly checked. I don't know that complex technologies like AI will ever get to a level where we can trust that the ability of regulators to do that kind of job to that high quality could ever match. And in that respect, I would say, yes, organizations have to self-regulate, but in part it is because we cannot ask necessarily our governments for the same sort of involvement that they would have something like health. So small newsrooms have a lot to gain from any form of tooling, because tooling in general, whichever tooling we're talking about, is always about scaling up humans, either to help them to do things that they could not do on their own, or to do more of that thing for less money. In some ways, the richest of all the richest news organization, if money truly is no object, kind of has less to gain, right? Because they could just have one human behind every small problem and just get exactly what they want. So the sort of massification of automation, the fact that it's more scalable and cheaper and therefore more accessible to more people, should actually benefit those small organizations. And I think small organizations are usually very well aware of where they're putting a lot of human time into things that are fundamentally not their core mission. It's just what they need as an accessory to carrying out their mission. A lot of processing, a lot of administrative tasks, a lot of research tasks, a lot of just copy pasting things to get things done. They're quite aware of usually where their time is getting sunk, more so than large organizations in many ways that can absorb costs without truly examining them. And on the other hand, they also, the smaller the organization, usually the better they know their community and what their users want and don't have yet from them. And in that respect, creating that extra space, that extra productivity, is kind of immediately applicable to just that problem that has been underserved, or that segment that's been underserved. So I feel like they're the kinds of organizations that if they hear and they get enough information about what's out there for them, and read enough case studies and connect with other organizations around them, are most likely to be able to identify fairly quickly whether something is right for them and that they could adopt it because it makes sense for their problems and their users.